What's up, Legacy Life? Welcome to part 4 of our annuity series, and excited that you guys are on here. And I commend you guys for taking time out of your day, your schedule, to be hanging out talking about annuities here. So here's what we've talked about so far: is number one, we talked about finding the money. Different ways that you can open the door when you're having conversations with people. How can you find money that might be sitting there not doing a whole lot, might not be helping the client accomplish their goals, might be a plan in retirement, or the client wants to use it in retirement. They just don't necessarily have a plan on how to use it. Or you would be surprised at how many people out there are just not even getting advised, period, on annuities, or not even annuities, but just planned it, helped in their retirement. People out there in middle America that just nobody's helping, nobody, because they don't have $1 million, they don't have $5 million, they have 200,000. And so just nobody's helping them. So that's what we talked about in part 1. Is really just like, hey, how do we find the opportunities? And we'll touch a little bit on that here as well. We'll talk about some of that on here, but how do we find the opportunities? How do we open the door? How do we see if somebody's open? Maybe a current client, maybe somebody that you're talking to on the phone for the first time, the second time, somebody you're helping with life insurance, that kind of thing. Then we talked about the indexes within fixed indexed annuities, and how those work, and a lot of my opinions on those. That one really should be maybe like part 4, part 5. I kind of jumped the gun on that. But that's currently part 2. And then we talked about income last week. So we were talking about income products. Where do they make sense? Why does an annuity kick so much butt as far as income goes? And why is that a fit for so many people? So today we're going to talk about growth. Okay, we're going to talk about growth products. Okay, they're very, very popular out there. The fixed index annuities are very popular. We're going to talk about really the 2 different ways that we can help people grow their money inside of an annuity, or the 2 different products that are our growth products. Now, again, all of us, we're life licensed, we're not securities licensed. So I'm not talking about the variable products. I'm not talking about RILAs. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. Okay, I'm talking about fixed indexed annuities, and I'm also talking about the other type of growth products that we have that are called multi-year guaranteed annuities. And so those are the ways that we can help people with growth. I think these products are fantastic. And so just kind of jumping in here is like, you sit down with somebody, and I say you sit down, you're on the phone with somebody, whatever, and they've got money that's kind of just sitting dormant, or they want to do something with it, or it's a piece of their retirement, they're planning on using it. They just don't have anybody helping them. What are the options for growth? Multi-year guaranteed annuities, MIGAs is what we call those, or a fixed indexed annuity. Now, what are some of the questions? Like, how do we know somebody is looking for a growth annuity, or how do we know a growth annuity is a fit for somebody? The only way you figure these things out, it's not our job to prescribe that to the client. It's really our job to ask the client questions to see what their goals are. So one of the first questions I'll usually ask, and if you've done any annuity meetings with me, I'm like, hey, so what is your goal with this money? Harold, Susie, Bobby, what is your goal with this money? What do you want this money to be able to do for you in retirement? Like, I'm trying to zero in on, like, okay, you've got this, and I'm just making up numbers here. You've got this $200,000. What do you want this $200,000 to do for you in those retirement years? And then I shut it. Okay, I'm just going to listen to what they have to say. And here's the thing: is like, you will have people that'll say, well, listen, I've got Social Security, I've got a pension from working at the railroad, I've got I've got that, I've got this, my wife has her Social Security, so really I just want that money to be able to grow. I just want that money to grow. I want to maximize it, or I want to get a really good rate of return on it. The point being that you're going to run into situations where income is not a factor. Okay, like, they are not. An annuity is not a fit because of income. They don't need income. Okay, they've got Social Security, they've got the pension, they've got rental properties. Like, they have enough income coming in, dividends from stocks, like whatever it happens to be, where income is not the concern. Okay, why is an annuity still a fit when income's not a concern? Is because we can get protection. Okay, and if you've been watching through the series, an annuity can do 3 things. It could do income, it can do safety, and it can do growth. Okay, but really it can only do two of the three. Okay, so if we're going to do an income scenario, it's going to be safety, protection of principal, and income. If we're going to do a growth annuity, it's going to be safety, protection of principal, and growth. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is those growth products where income isn't a factor. Hey, I don't think we really need income, or hey, maybe we need income 10 years from now, or 12 years from now, or 15 years from now, or maybe the income that they need, like, well, we might take a trip here and there, but we're not really going to be relying on this money for day to day, month to month expenses kind of thing. Okay. So that's where a growth product makes sense. Now, there's two ways we can get growth. I've already talked about this. MYGAs, fixed index annuities. What is a MYGA? A MYGA is a multi-year guaranteed annuity, MYGA. And it is what it sounds like it is. Okay. You're going to get a guaranteed rate of return for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Okay, that's what you're going to get. And so I'm going to show you guys, what do these products look like? This is right now. This is just a snapshot in time of what the MYGAs look like right now. They are going to look different next month, or 2 months from now, or a year from now, 6 years from now, whatever. And I will just tell you, in 2020, 2021, 2022, MYGAs weren't really all that attractive. Okay, because it's a guaranteed rate of return. And they were getting maybe like 2-3%. So like, not that great. Right now, MYGAs, and I'll just show you guys this. Let me just pull this up here. Hopefully you guys can see this good. Right now, MYGAs are getting a lot more than that. So these are a bunch of the companies that we work with, or that you could get contracted with. And if you look at this, so on a 2-year MYGA, America will give somebody 4.5%. On a 3-year MYGA, we've got Ohio State Life. They'll do 5.5%, or they're a B plus company. Maybe your client doesn't like that. You could get an A-rated company, A- with Liberty Bankers. They'll do 5.1. On a 4-year, Nassau will do 5.25. 5 years, you got Farmers, which I'm pretty sure we have access to. If not, you've got Nassau. Nassau's great. Love those guys. 5.5. 6-year Nassau 5.5. I really, really like Heartland. They're a great company. So 7 years with Heartland and Nassau 5.5. So what does this mean? Okay. Ultimately, here's what all of this means. And most people are getting a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year, type of MYGA. Here's what it is. Here's how it works. It is a guaranteed fixed rate of return for multiple years in a row. In this case, what I'm showing you is a 10-year MYGA, okay, with Heartland. Okay, and I've got it $1 million. We don't need to do $1 million. This is a fictional client anyways. Let's just say that he's got $100,000. Okay. There we go. Beep, 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 beep. So this is, oh, darn it. Sorry, y'all. Okay, here's all the MYGAs. Darn it, why are they not showing up? I don't think. Okay, well, we're just going to look at this one. So this one, we're looking at a 7-year. I don't know why the 10-year is not showing up. But this is what it looks like. So it's the same interest rate compounded annually over the course of 7 years for this client. So they start out with $100,000. Here's the benefit to a MYGA. They know what the account value is going to be 7 years from now, 10 years from now. Like, there is no guesswork. Doesn't matter what happens out there in the world. Doesn't matter about tariffs. Doesn't matter about any of this stuff. Like, hey, you are getting 5.55 guaranteed for 7 years in a row. Okay, and it's not like it's 5.55 per year. So if you look at this, the 100,000, okay, or in this case, 200,000, they're going to make $11,100. Okay, for that first year. Now on the MYGAs, a lot of times you can withdraw the interest earned on some of them. Some of it's the interest plus some more. It just depends on the company, depends on the product. Kind of beside the point right now, but somebody puts $200,000 in there at the end of year one. We already know it's going to be $211,100. Well, now they're going to earn the 5.55% on that 211,000, so they make a little bit more. And just basically, here's the short of it is, if they don't touch it, okay, they're getting this 5.55 7 years in a row. They end up making $91,000 guaranteed. If they don't touch it, that's what the math is going to be. If they don't pull anything out, that's what the math is going to be. And so it's a very safe, it's a very secure option for somebody to go out there and just get a guaranteed rate of return. This might compete with something like a CD. Okay, why do people put money into CDs? Oh, you're going to get 4%. Well, I will tell you, like MIGAs, what we're talking about here, they kick the pants off of CDs. They absolutely kick the pants off of CDs. Like it's like a full percentage point or more, like 1.5 right now, higher than what you can get in a CD. Here's the downside. The downside is hey, you've really only got access to the interest inside of this product for the first or each year. Okay, so we're agreeing to give our money to this insurance company for 7 years or 5 years or 3 years, just like a CD. Just CDs have shorter terms. Okay, the lowest term really on most of these MIGAs is like 2 years. Okay, and even then you're only getting like 4.5%. So that's the downside. Okay, so if somebody needs the money and they need to go put it, oh, I'm going to put this in, I got it in CDs, and you're like, hey, let's get you into something else. It'll be higher, And if they want to use the money within the next year or 2 years, a MIGA is probably not a fit for them. Okay, if they don't need to use the money and they just like, I've just been putting it in CDs for the past 10 years. Okay, well, are you going to put it in CDs for the next 10 years? Yeah, well, yeah, I don't need it. Don't plan on touching it. Just trying to grow it. Okay, well, you could get a higher guarantee here. There's no risk. Doesn't matter the stock market, tariffs, like just none of that stuff matters. Okay, like the insurance company is guaranteeing this rate for 7 years. Now, after that 7 years, then what? Well, after that 7 years, they are no longer guaranteeing this rate. And it just kind of depends on what a rate's going to be like in 7 years. I don't know. You don't know. But when that time comes 7 years from now, we can we're going to make a new decision. Like, hey, maybe we keep it here if they're still offering a really good rate. Odds are good. Like, hey, we roll it back out. Now you can do MIGAs with cash. You could do it with people's qualified funds. You could do it with really any kind of money, and it's a guaranteed set rate of return for X amount of years. Okay, that's what we got going on there for a MIGA. Now, MIGAs are great. They're very popular right now. I think they're fantastic, and they're popular because the rates are high. Like I said, right now 5.55 is awesome. You know what I mean? The past couple of years, we've had some that are 5.75, 5.5, or even 6% that people have been able to get and lock in and secure and guarantee. That's fantastic. That's why it makes sense in retirement. Like, hey, not only is the money going to be protected, but you're going to get this guaranteed rate of return for the next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and it's guaranteed. Okay, you don't have to worry about the market. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. The other type of option. Okay, so that's MIGAs for growth. The other growth option, and we've already touched on that in this series, but I'm going to touch on it again here. The other growth option is a fixed indexed annuity. Okay, and a fixed indexed annuity, all that means, the fixed means that they cannot lose money. There is a floor at 0%. Okay, the index means it's going to be indexed to the stock market. And if the stock market grows, they're going to get a return, some type of return there. And if the stock market doesn't grow, they're protected from the downside. Okay, and here's really like the bottom line, you guys. This is why inside of a fixed index annuity, the allocations matter. Okay, so this is a company, this is a real client. This is from 2023 to 2024. You can see the dates right up here. And here's all of the different accounts. And if you remember from that call that I did previously, where I'm talking about, hey, you got to go with the S&P, you got to go with the S&P, you got to go with the S&P. Here's why. Okay, I know I showed you the numbers, but let me show you a real life example here. Here's, oops, goodness gracious, what's going on here? I'm going backwards. That's the problem. So here's why. Okay, and for clarity, this is not a Lincoln policy. This is a different policy from a different company for a client of mine. And if you look at the S&P, what did the S&P 500 do versus what did the other indexes do that this company offers? Okay, well, the S&P did 24.83, 24.83. This S&P Duo Swift only did 5%. Okay, has the words S&P in it, but it's not the S&P 500. Okay, it's the S&P 500 Duo Swift, very different, apparently. Okay, 24% versus 5%. And then if you go down here, here's the other ones, the Barclays Atlas 5. Okay, that one was negative. All right, if you look at the S&P Raven Pack AI, okay, think about this. AI has been kicking butt, the past year and a half. How is it possible that the just generic boring S&P 500, okay, is up 24%, almost 25% for this client, when the Raven Pack AI is only up 0.31%? Okay, this is why we go with the S&P. So that's what that's kind of what I was talking about in the last call. This is a real example here. And if you're the person who goes into like the AI or whatever, it's a tough conversation with your clients to explain to them, hey, the S&P went up 24%, but yours went negative. Sorry, we picked the wrong horse. And really the S&P has been one of the best buy and hold investments out there. So it makes sense to go up to it. It's consistent. It's the 500 largest private or excuse me 500 largest companies in the United States of America, all the companies that we've heard of. So here's just an example. Okay, there's lots of really great companies out there that have really good products on for fixed index annuities, and I'm going to run through this, but this is out of date. This is back from January. This was a presentation I put together for a client that no showed me, by the way. But I put it together for him, and these were their rates back then. Their rates are higher now, but it's just showing you what are they going to give you as far as a cap, what are they going to give you as far as a participation rate, stuff like that. These are very good numbers, and they're all in the S&P. And the point on this is we want to do the S&P without a fee. Okay, that is the main thing. S&P. Let me move my face here. S&P without a fee. Okay. I'm not a big fan of the fees, so we're going to avoid the fees. And we also talked about rate integrity on that previous call. But here's really the bottom line: is if you would have put your money into a fixed index annuity like this one that had a 60% participation rate. Okay, some have the highest I'm seeing right now is right around 60%. Some are maybe around 50%. Both good. Okay, but at a 60% participation rate, this is apples to apples. Okay, the red line right there is the money invested in the S&P 500. The green line is the money in a fixed index annuity. Here's the thing. Okay, a fixed index annuity is rarely going to defeat or beat the S&P 500. Okay, because you're not going to get all the upside, because you're not going to get all the reward on the upside, because you're not taking all the risk. Okay, when it comes to the potential downside. So, but here's what it can do, and why it makes sense for somebody in retirement, they're trying to protect their money, grow their money, is because they don't participate in these downsides. You see that big red right there where the S&P 500 went down. Okay, that was whatever that was, 2007, 2008. Okay, well, you're not losing money. You're not losing money in there. Okay, which I'm telling you, for people in retirement, that is very, very, very important, because you lose money in retirement can change the whole picture. Okay, so you're not growing as much when it's growing, but you're also not losing. And so if you look at this from 2005 all the way up until 2017, the annuity is winning. Okay, the annuity, if we started in 2005, went to 2017, the annuity is winning. Now, actually 18, all the way up until 2018, because 17 was a down year. So you basically, the way that it works within the fixed index annuities is you're going to get the upside. In this case, 60% of what the S&P does, or maybe it's a capped product where, hey, you get the first 10% of what the S&P 500 does. And then once you reach your anniversary date, let's say the S&P 500 is up 10%, and you get to your anniversary date, that 10% now becomes locked in on your account value, and you now can't go below that. So for example, let's say you've got $1 million, just like my client here. Okay, you grow for those first 2 years, and the fixed index annuity, you can see it might be kind of small, but it's got 112,000 in there at that point. Well, when the market goes down, your 112,000, or excuse me, 1,124,000. Okay, so he started with $1 million, 1.124 is what he's got in there. That is now your new floor after your anniversary date, regardless of what the market does after that point. So basically, year to year, the way that it works is you start on May 15th of 2025. The index grows to and let's say it grows 10%, and on May 15th of 2026, and if it's in a cap type product, you get the first 10%. Well, what's going to happen is you've got $1 million. They're going to credit you that 10%. You're now at 1.1. And let's say the day after the market just goes off a cliff and, it's down 40, 50%, you have locked in. You're now at 1.1 and you didn't lose money. That's why the annuity, fixed index annuity can make sense, and just be an awesome hedge against market risk. Okay, you're probably overall going to average maybe you're going to average more than what you could get with bonds, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%, a little bit more than what you can get inside of a MYGA. Okay, I think it's pretty safe to say that within a fixed indexed annuity, you'll probably get 1 or 2% more on average than what you could get at a MIGA at the time that you bought it. So if MIGAs are 5.55 right now, a properly set up fixed index annuity might get you, 7.5, that kind of thing. Now, the other thing I want you guys to note on here is at the end of the day, okay, or at least at the end of 2024, and it's probably this case right now in 2025, the being directly invested is probably going to end up yielding more results. Okay, it's going to yield a higher rate of return. The reason, again, the reason that an annuity makes sense is, like, look at this COVID crash right here. Okay, so you're in your annuity when the COVID crash happens, okay, or 21, 22, whatever that is, okay, you aren't, or excuse me, that's 2022. So that's after COVID. You're just not, you don't have to worry about the market going down. Okay. And I'm just telling you guys that peace of mind when it comes to people for retirement, it makes a huge, huge, huge difference. Okay. Because you don't have to worry about the market going down. If the market goes down, it's all good. If you look at the same numbers from 2014 to the end of 2024, it's like, hey, you're protected the whole way through this. And I will tell you guys, some people are like, oh, well, I would just rather be in the stocks. Yeah. Well, guess what? 2014 to 2024, I mean, really, like the past 15, 20 years have been like record years, okay, in the stock market. Like, the return from that period has been insane. Okay, it's not always like that. It's not always been like that. Those have been extremely good years, and you're actually keeping up pretty good here. Within a fixed index annuity, like, you're in good shape. You're in good hands, and you're not participating in any of the market downside. And so, that is a separate thing. So those are the different ways that people can, the different growth annuities that we have. And again, these make sense for folks that income's not a factor. They really just want to grow the money and protect the money. I talked last week about why is it important to protect the money, but just as a reminder here, when you're in retirement, if there is a 40% downturn or a 30% downturn, or, if there's a significant correction, which we're kind of overdue for, okay, just as a country, as a world, okay, we haven't had really a major downturn since, 2007, 2008. So it's my opinion that we're kind of due for something like that. Well, this is just a way where your client can basically everything that they've made over the past 15 years in the stock market, 20 years, 30 years, however long they've been growing their 401k, growing their nest egg, we can secure that and we can protect it. And if they want it to keep growing, guess what? It can keep growing. It could just grow without any downside. Okay. And it's a pretty good trade-off, quite frankly, because it's like in retirement, like, you don't want to risk what you have for something that you don't need. Okay, that's a Warren Buffett quote. Don't risk what you have for something that you don't need. And there's a lot of people that are risking their money right now, just so they can see the numbers go up more. But they don't need the numbers to go up more. You know what I mean? It's like you're getting close to retirement. You don't need the numbers to go up more. So why risk what you have for something that you don't need? An annuity is a way to be able to protect that money, not put it at risk. It's almost like if we're if we're out there at the poker table, it's like, if we're going all in and we've got like 5 minutes before we go, and we just decide to start going all in. It's like, hey, a couple bad hands will wipe you out. Okay, you might get some big wins, but a couple bad hands can wipe you out. And if you get wiped out at the wrong time, right before you go home, i.e., right before it's time to retire, it could put you in a bad spot. Or while you're in retirement, it could obviously put you in a really bad spot. And so, why risk what you have for something that you don't need? Do you need 20% returns, 30% returns? Most people don't. Most people are pretty happy and comfortable to be able to get, hey, give me the first 10% of what the S&P 500 does. Give me 60% of whatever the S&P 500 does. Without the downside. And it's a really good trade-off for people that are getting to the retirement age. And so hopefully that makes sense for you guys there. You got MIGAs, we got fixed indexed annuities. And again, you don't need to be totally the expert on all this stuff. It's helpful if you understand how some of these things work. Okay. In fact, a fixed index annuity works just, very similar to an IUL. IUL works very similar to that. As far as the indexing strategy, it's just attached to a different product. And so I hope you guys find this helpful. We're going to do another call next week on annuities. It'll be part 5. I think that'll end up being the final piece here. So appreciate you guys for hopping on. And if you guys have questions for me, message me directly on Telegram, message me in the group chats. Feel free to reach out, let me know. And in fact, on the last call here, probably what I'll do is we'll go through some of these major questions and go through all that kind of stuff with you guys and get your questions answered. I mean, if I can be helpful as far as this goes. So hope you guys have found this valuable, and we'll see you guys next week on the next call. Have a blessed rest of your day. Let's go kick some butt, y'all.